So in my last video, I really wanted to make the distinction between an imaginal act that leaves subconscious impressions versus fantasizing or daydreaming, because it is the former, imaginal acts that leave impressions, that ultimately become expressions, that become what you experience in the 3D. And I want to expand a bit more in today's video about this distinction between something that is more fantasized versus actually feeling something to be real, actually feeling yourself in the wish fulfilled. And understandably, all of these terms can become really nebulous, really challenging to understand, and get confusing quickly. What exactly does it mean to feel it real? What do we mean by imagine your wish fulfilled? What is the distinction between something that we imagine but never happens and something that we imagine and becomes a 3D fact? And I want to expand in this video a bit more into what we mean by feel it real and the imaginal acts, and how to know you are actually leaving an impression, you are actually feeling something to the point where it becomes externalized. The way I see it, there are two main points of confusion when it comes to understanding this concept. The first point is that for a lot of people, when we hear the word imagination, we automatically associate that with fantasy. Our mind tends to immediately go towards some kind of fiction that's all make-believe up here. And so we start to do just that. So when we hear that we are supposed to imagine the wish fulfilled, we essentially just start to fantasize about it, but it doesn't feel any more real to us than a futile daydream. So how can we know and how can we distinguish that something feels real for us? How can we know that we are using our imagination in a way that will produce external results? The short answer is you'll know that you are doing this right because it will feel real for you. It will feel like a fact. It will feel like a certainty. But then the question becomes, how am I supposed to believe and assume something to be true without a shred of evidence? How am I just supposed to blindly accept something when there is no 3D proof to go off of? And admittedly, this is where a lot of people, if not most, run into a lot of difficulties in this practice. How do we know and feel something to be true without proof of it? Well, what if I were to tell you that you're already doing this all the time? Yes, every single person watching this video has had many moments, maybe even daily moments, where they felt and knew something to be true without the 3D proof of it. We just don't know this because we have a different word for it, and that word is intuition. And intuition is a topic that does come up quite often for me, and I figure this is a good segue from my previous video into really honing in on what that feeling truly is and what intuition is in the context of the law of assumption and conscious manifestation. So everybody watching this video already understands what intuition is. That feeling in your gut that something is going to go a certain way, that something is going to happen. You may not know exactly what that is or why it's going off, but we've all experienced this at some point or another, be it for something good or something not so good. But what exactly is this, and what does it really have to do with manifestation? Well, it turns out it has everything to do with manifestation. This is something that a lot of people overlook because we do not associate the two. We do not associate intuition with the law of assumption or manifestation. For most people, myself included, we have long seen our intuition as some kind of guiding force, as some sort of outside and guiding power that is giving us a warning or giving us some kind of insight into something that we may not be conscious of. Before I knew about the law, I took my intuition very seriously. I saw it as a guidance, something divine and wise, almost primal, something that I always had to heed because my intuition was never wrong. Intuition is feeling it real. in every sense of the word. It is that knowing, it is that certainty, it's that hunch that something is telling you that this is going to be a certain way, or that something is going to happen here without any evidence or any sort of proof, without any evidence or maybe even any logic or reason as to why. It is that innate knowing, and that is the byproduct of our beliefs and assumptions. It acts as a driving pull behind the bridge of incidents. Whenever you've had those moments that you just needed to take this certain action and you didn't know why, you didn't have any explanation, you just felt moved to do this thing, and then it played out exactly as you thought it would, as you assumed it would, that's the law in full effect. Essentially, this is our gauge. This is how we can really start to be aware of the things that we are naturally believing and assuming to be true. Because whatever you are imagining, whatever you tend to believe, whatever your concepts of yourself and people and the world at large, whatever that is what is guiding your intuition. It is your guidance system, not unlike a GPS. Whatever the course you have punched in, or whatever you believe is going to happen, that is what your intuition is going to move you to do. And it's important that we are aware of intuition and what it actually is, because the more that we observe it, the more that we are conscious of it, the more that we are going to see what we are actually believing, what we are actually assuming to be true. Because one of the issues that we run into is the fact that we are operating on autopilot the vast majority of the time. A lot of the times we are not even aware of the beliefs and assumptions we hold. We are not aware of why we do the things that we do. It feels like it's just complete impulse. But if we start to pay close attention and we understand that intuition is the byproduct of our belief and assumption and is the guiding force from within that we have set, we can really become more aware of the state that we are occupying more often than not. At the foundation of these teachings is the understanding that your beliefs and assumptions are the building blocks of your self-concept. That is all of the things that make you distinctly you and what you are believing and the lens in which you see the world through. And our intuition is the autopilot in which we operate from. It also gives us a way to build our faith in this law. Because if what the law says is true and that our beliefs and assumptions are what become external facts, then every time we have a gut feeling that something is going to happen, and then it does, is proof of the law working, is proof that you are, in fact, the operant power. Every time that you had that gut pull that something was going to happen, and then it did, it is because, quite simply, you manifested that. But the most important thing to remember when it comes to intuition is that it answers the question that we have about what feeling it real actually means. So next time you have the question of what does it mean to live in the end, or what does it mean to feel it real, go back to a time when you had intuition about something, and there's your answer. It is what you are feeling as true. It is the product of your beliefs and assumptions, and it's why your intuition has never been wrong. Be it good or bad, your intuition is going to play out exactly as you feel and assume it will. So next time you have that gut feeling, listen closely to it. Instead of just going on the autopilot, really pay attention to what it's telling you. Oh, I don't know what it is about that person, but I just have a feeling they don't like me. I don't know why, I just have this really strong feeling to not go into work tomorrow. I think they're going to fire me. I can't tell you why I feel this certain way, but I feel like something bad's going to happen. All of those instances are pointing to what you are naturally believing and assuming. And as the foundation of this entire law, hence the name, Law of Assumption, we want to be very clear in understanding what we are feeling as real and true by that pull in our gut, by that hunch, that inkling, that suspicion that we just know, despite 3D evidence. So the next time we are ever questioning what it means to feel it real or what it means to live in the end, all we have to do is recall the time that we knew something to be true before the 3D showed us otherwise. We have already proved to ourselves that there have been countless incidences where we knew something to be true and something to happen before it did. And that is where we want to be with our desire. We are using our imagination to aid us in the feeling of that and really getting ourselves to believe we are now the person that has the thing that we desire. And a helpful tip to really get familiar with this feeling is by first thinking about something that you are already certain of. And it could be anything. Think about something that you already know to be true. And note how that feels. Note how there is no back and forth. There is no upset. There is no resistance. When you know something to be certain, it is very distinct. Get familiar with the feeling of certainty. Get familiar with the feeling of something that you already know and are aware to be true. Notice how there is no back and forth. There is no feeling of anxiety. There's no uncertainty around it. It just feels like truth. That is feeling it real. And that is what ultimately manifests. This is how we can get to an outcome without lifting a finger or needing to figure out how to do so. When you are on the bridge, you're going to be pulled to do things or say things or act in certain ways that you may not be consciously aware of why. You may not be conscious of why you're doing it. You may have no evidence or no reason that you can see. It is just going to be that strong sense of knowing. So we want to be more keenly aware of what we are feeling in the day-to-day. What is our gut telling us as true? This is how we know the state we are identifying with, how we know the assumptions that we hold around what it is that we desire. What we are learning how to do here is to be more observant and aware of the things that we are doing on autopilot, the things that we are naturally moved to do or say or think. All of these things that we were not even conscious of before is giving us very clear insight as to what we are believing and what we are ultimately manifesting. So when we imagine, when we go within to feel it, we want it to have that same kind of reaction in the gut, that same feeling that we would get were we to know that our desires are fact. Get familiar with your intuition. Get familiar with what it is telling you. Not to say that your intuition is always right, but it is always going to show you what you are believing and assuming. It is always going to show you the state in which you are occupying and what you are identifying with. Be mindful of those impulses and those urges to react to something and really stop to ask yourself, why? Why am I feeling this way? Why am I assuming this to be true? If it is not something you desire, then challenge it and do not accept it. And the more that we do this, the more that we become aware of the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the more that we become aware of how the law operates and how we are already manifesting everything we experience, the more that we come to see the power of our belief, the power of our assumption, and the more that we become conscious and deliberate of where we go in imagination and what we actually start to accept and feel as true, once you shut off that autopilot response and start becoming more deliberate with what you are imagining and what you are feeling and what you are assuming, that is how you will manifest literally anything and everything you want. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. I hope this helped make things a bit more clear. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to give it a thumbs up. And if you are interested in checking out any of my other resources, I have links down below to my coaching programs, workshops, my blog, my podcast, my social channels. Got a ton of resources down in the description box below, so don't forget to check that out. Also, be sure to check out the other videos on this channel. Be sure to check out my Manifestation Fundamentals playlist. Each video is a different topic, but it all talks about how to manifest the best life ever. So until we meet again, you guys, as always, please take care, be well, and never forget how powerful you truly are. Happy manifesting, guys.